Good morning, students. So in earlier class, so up to that extent we are discussed so how the machine components are going to design. So when it is subjected to static loads as well as the fluctuating type of loads. And after the design process, in the design stage, so we know that at the last stage in the design we are going to assemble all the components. So in that, so we require the joining of two machine components. So that is what we call it as a fastening methods. So here we are having the different types of fastening methods. So that can be generally classified as so temporary and permanent fastenings. So in this class we are going to discuss one of the fastening method to join the two machine components, and that is riveted type of joints. So let us see. So first, so what are the different types of fastening methods? The fastening methods, that is joining of two machine components, can be classified as two different types. So one is temporary fasteners and another one is permanent fasteners. So here, so permanent fasteners in the sense, so whenever if you want to disassemble the two machine components, so we need to destroy any of the, or we need to make a damage to any of the one of the machine component, that the type of fastening method we call it as a permanent fasteners. So that is a permanent fasteners are those whenever we need to disassemble, so that can disassembled without destroying the connecting component, that is with destroying the one of the machine components. The examples are soldered, brazed, welded, as well as the riveted type of joint. So here, so it is not without destroying. So with destroying the connecting components, it can be possible to separate the two machine components. That is what the permanent fasteners are. So when coming to the temporary fasteners, so or detachable fasteners we can also call it as. So are those fasteners which can be disassembled. So that is without destroying the connecting component, that we call it as a temporary fasteners. So the type of temporary fasteners are bolted joints as well as spindle shafts or quarter joints or keys, all will come under the temporary type of fasteners. In your previous course, that is a machine drawing itself, we are drawn different types of permanent fasteners as well as different types of temporary fasteners like quarter joints, riveted joints, all these in your so previous course. And in today's class, we can see so what is riveted joint and what are the rivets and what are the types of riveted joints we are having, and the possible failures of the riveted joints when it is subjected to the external load. So first of all, so what is rivet? So we know that so it is a portion of cylindrical, short cylindrical head we are having the internal integral part of cylindrical portion of body as well as shank. So these are the three portions we are having for the rivet. So are used for the permanent fastening methods. So these rivets can be used for different structural applications, for so in the building of ships, or in trusses or bridges or pressure vessels. So in many of the applications we can go within these kind of riveted joints. So here these riveted joints are called as joints are widely used for joining the light metals. So these joints can be formed by means of under the external load. So you can observe, so we are having so head for the rivet as well as the body or shank and as well as the tile portion. So here you can observe different forms of rivets in the diagram. So here these rivets can be formed by drilling a hole in a machine component. So this is the one of the machine component, and there is another machine component can also be there. So both can be connected. So these are the two components, so machine component 1 and as well as machine component 2. So for joining the two components by means of rivets, we need to drill a holes in the two machine components, so which are very much necessary, so that so we can introduce the rivet in the hole. So we can align the axis of the rivets with the axis of hole what we are drilled in the two machine components. So thereby, so we can apply some force, external force, that means by means of hammer blow or by means of hydraulic press we can use. So this tail portion can be formed into another head. So this is how the that is either by means of forming process we can form the tail into the another head. So that is the process we can join the two machine components by means of rivet. So here rivet can be defined as a short cylindrical bar with the head or integral head, that as well as it can also having the shank or body. That are the three parts we are having. One is a head, shank and tail. So head and the shank portion, so head will be exposed to the outside of the component, so that is the extruded part of the both the components, and then so the shank will be always the body is always inside the so machine component, and tail is going to form another head by means of application of external load, so which are generally used for building bridges, so as well as pressure vessels or boiler shells. The most common using permanent fastener, that is applications for the rivets. We can observe these riveted joints in these cases most frequently. Clear? So here we are having the for making the riveted joints, the rivets can be made with different materials. So the rivets should observe so the maximum capacity of loads under the loading condition. It should be very tough, as well as it need to form the another head by means of hammer blow. So it should be ductile, so that the material should having the property of high ductile as well as a high toughness value. So that the generally used materials for the rivets or so that is steels. So generally can use for the with the manufacturing with the steel. Again the steels we cannot use all the steels. We can use low carbon steel and nickel steels for the specific applications. So that is alloy steel, so that it can avoid so the wear. So and there is an for non-ferrous we can go with the brass or aluminium or copper. So these are the general form of general materials we can use it for the materials. So for fluid tight joint you can consider steels are used for many of the applications. So for example you can take pressure vessels or building of ships. So we need to make the vessels or ship should be or ship trunk should be a leak proof joint. In those particular cases we specifically go with then generally go with then steel rivets. So instead of go with then non ferrous metals, so like brass, aluminium or copper. So these are the generally used materials for the rivets. So steel or non, if we go for the non ferrous, copper, bronze or brass or aluminium. And coming to the types of rivet heads, so we know that different types of rivet heads are there that you already drawn in your machine drawing itself. So, but out of which generally used or generally observable rivet head in any of the machine components, that is a snap type of head. But coming to the different applications, so based upon the type of applications, we can also vary with the different types of rivet heads or can be used. So one is a pan head, mushroom head, counter sunk head of 120 degrees. So flat head, so we can have the round corner sunk head and flat corner 90 degrees as well as 60 degrees. So these are all you are all drawn in your previous course in the machine drawing itself. We are having the different types of rivet heads, but out of which we can use the most common used type of head is that is a snap head, which is having the round semicircular head for that rivet. So with the height of 0.7 d and the width diameter of 1.6 times of d, so where d stands for the diameter for the rivet. So and after that you can also have the different types of riveted joints are there. So one is so generally observable joints or lap joint and butt joint. So we know that the lap joint in the sense so when the two machine components can be arranged in a fashion that so the two components can be placed one after the another or one over the another, that we call it as a lap type of joint. So here the lap joint in which the one plate overlaps the another to the another plates and the two plates and then riveted together. That the type of joint we call it as lap joint. So that can be placed one over the another or one overlaps to the another machine component, that we call it as a lap joint. And coming to the butt joint, so both the plates can be placed aside. So that is a side by side. This is a plate 1 and this is a plate 2 or machine component 1 or machine component 2. So that we can join two plates that we call it as an butt joint, but in this case we need to require the additional plates that we call it as gussets or straps. So the butt joint is in which the main plates are kept in alignment of butting, that is touching at sides each other, and you need to use a cover plate that we call it as a straps, cover plates, straps or gussets we call it as. And it can be placed on one side or upon the both sides, that depends upon the necessity of the application or the strength of the joint should may have, so when it is subjected to. And coming to the lap and butt joint, so in lap joint again we are having the different types, as well as in butt joint we can also have the different types based upon the row of rivets we can provide in the joint, as well as arrangement of rivets. So in butt joint also you can classify based upon the number of rows of rivets it can present in the single plate, as well as the number of straps you can provide so in the joint. So let us see what are the types of lap joints and butt joints. So it is first one, so lap joint. In the lap joint we are having two different types. So one is a single riveted lap joint and another one is double riveted. Or if you go with another row, that is you can add one more row in the joint, you can have the triple riveted also. So here in the single riveted you can observe only single row of rivets are present in the joint. So you can observe only one line of rivets, that is called a single riveted joints. So there is only a single row of rivets in a lap joint. And coming to the second one, that is a double row, which means we can add one more row of rivets, so that we call it as a double riveted lap joint. There are two row of rivets in a lap joint. But here coming to the second row, that is a double riveted lap joint, the rivets can be arranged in two fashions. One is so the face of the, that is so one of the rivet can align with the center of the another rivet, that is they can be kept side by side. That type of rivet we call it as riveting, we call it as chain riveting, or that is so you can observe, so both the rivets can be placed side by side. So or there may be a chance, so there is one more type of arrangement, so that is arranged in this fashion. And this type of riveting we call it as zigzag riveting, that is alternative drills or holes are drilled so in a rows, that we call it as an zigzag type of riveting, that is the arrangement of rivets we can observe, so that you can also classify. So either it is a chain riveting or it is a zigzag riveting. And the terms used in these riveted joints, so we know that the distance from the one center of the rivet to the another center of the or consecutive center of the rivet can be denoted by P. So that is denoted by P, that is called pitch. So generally we can take pitch, and from distance from the center of the rivets to the edge of the riveted joint or edge of the plate, we call it as a margin, and it is denoted by M, and the diameter of the rivet can be denoted by T, and thickness of plate is denoted by small t, so that is the thickness of plate, and the distance between the two rows we can denote with so PR, that is called row pitch. So this can be varies for chain riveting to the zigzag riveting. So if it is a chain riveting, it may be varied with the, if it is in zigzag riveting. So the values of based upon the proportions, it may going to vary. So these are the types of riveted joints. You can add one more row, so we call it as a triple riveted lap joint. That is the number of rows we can present in the joint. We call it as so that particular riveted joint. So if it is a single row, we call it a single riveted. If it is a double, two number of rows are present, double riveted. If it is a three rows are present, we call it as triple riveted lap joint. Clear? And coming to the butt type of joint. So here, so butt type of joints can be classified based upon the number of row of rivets present in that joint, as well as the number of straps. So basically you can classify based upon the number of straps. So we can provide one additional strap, so that we call it a single strap butt joint. So the strap can be placed either upside or downside. So that is the top side or bottom side. That's on the main plate. So each other, and only one cover plate is used on one side of the main plates are riveted together. So which means so the strap, the additional strap what you are going to use, so either it is on one side, so it is plate 1 and this is plate 2, so we can add one more plate here so that we can join the two plates. So that is type of joint, we call it a single strap butt joint. So again in that single riveted butt joint or single strap butt joint, so this can be classified based upon the number of row of rivets. So we can have the single riveted, single strap butt joint, double riveted, single strap butt joint. So again in the double riveted we can classify with based upon the arrangement of rivets. So single strap, double riveted chain type, single strap, double riveted zigzag type. Likewise you can classify it. Similarly you can add one more strap here, that is on both sides of the plates you can add the cover plates are placed on both sides of the main plates. So that type of joint we call it as a double strap butt joint. So here you can observe this is a single cover or single strap butt joint. So that is a single riveted again, and it is a double riveted single cover. So the single strap double riveted, and this is a single riveted double strap butt joint. So likewise, so we can also classify with the straps basically. So in that again based upon the number of row of rivets are present in that particular joint, we can classify those joints. That is a single strap, single row, single strap, or double row, or double strap, single row, and a double strap, double riveted. So likewise, we can classify the butt type of joints. Clear? And coming to the one more process, so as stated, so the riveted joints are the main applications you can observe in the pressure vessels or in ships or in cylinders. So likewise, so in majority of the cases, the joint should provide a leak-proof joint. So for that case, once we can the riveting process can be completed, there is a chances of gaps. So due to the clearance between the hole as well as the diameter of the rivet, there is some clearance will be provided. Due to that, it will cause us chances of leakage. To avoid the leakages, to maintain or to provide a proper leak-proof joint, there is one of the process you can perform, that we call it as a caulking and fuller. So what is the caulking? In the sense, there is a tool, there is a blunt tool having the width of 5 to 28 mm. So the tool can be used. So 5 mm to or 38 mm width, the tool can be used, and by means of hammer blow, you can observe at the edges of the plate. So by the application of the caulking tool, we can give the hammer blow so that these edges can be notched towards the inside of the plate, so that if there is any clearance present between these two plates, that can be completely avoided. So as well as if there is a chance of gap between, so if there is a clearance between the rivet surface, the head surface of the rivet, as well as the plate surface, that can be avoided by means of applying a hammer blow using the caulking tool, so that this notch, the circular notch can be, triangular notch can be provided on the around the surface of the rivet, so that which will form a very tight leak-proof joint can be obtained in the caulking process. And the difference between the caulking and fullering, so the caulking can be done at the edges of the rivets as well as edges of the plate, but fullering, so that for these caulking tool, the width of the tool can be varies from 5 to 28 or 38 mm. But here the fullering tool, which will be taken equal to the width of the thickness of the plate. So whatever the thickness we are having, the thickness of the plate will be equal to the width of these fullering tool, and can be used or applied the force with an inclination of 80 degrees or at an angle of 80 degrees, so that the plate can have the edges of the plates can be closed, so by means of a fullering process. So to avoid the leakages between the joints, we can go with this caulking and fullering process. So here, in order to make the joints leak proof or fluid tight joints, so like pressure vessels in the steam boilers or air receivers or tanks, caulking process is going to be employed. And in this process, blunt tool or narrow blunt tool, caulking tool about 5 mm to 38 mm in width is used. The edge is grounded to an angle of 80 degrees. And more on the fullering, the making the joints strong is known as fullering, which has a largely increased with the caulking process. Clear? That is what the process of caulking and fullering. You can observe clearly. So the fullering caulking tool here as well as the fullering tool here, so that here the caulking process can be taken place at the edges of the plates as well as the edges of the rivets around the circumference. But the fullering process only takes place at the edges of the plates, and the thickness can vary here for the caulking as well as the fullering tool. In the caulking tool, it is around 5 to 38 mm, and but for the fullering tool, it may be equal to the thickness of plates. So this is the process of caulking and fullering, and the force can be applied by means of hammer blows. And coming to the possible types of failures in the joint. So how the riveted joint is going to fail by the application of external load, that we are going to see now. So failures of riveted joint. So these are the possible modes of failures. So how the machine component, that is a riveted joint here, is going to fail by the application of external load. There is a 5 different possible types of failures. So we know that so in many of the instances we are discussing about the shear. So we can discuss about this riveted joint by the application of the load, external load on the plates, which is perpendicular to the axis of rivets, which can cause the rivets tends to shear. So first possible mode of failure is a shearing failure of rivet. So we know that so in many of the cases we are discussing that. So the shearing of rivets can cause us, so when the external load is applied on the plates. So why? Because the loads will be acting perpendicular to the axis of rivets. So that the very first possible type of failure in the riveted joint is a shear failure of rivets. And the second one is a tensile failure, which means by the application of the load. So whenever we can drill holes along the along the line. So whenever we can drill holes, there is a, which means we are removing the materials which can cause us so reduction in strength. So whenever we can apply a load, so there is a possibility of tearing. So it can tear across the row of rivets or across the holes we are going to drill. So that is what causes. So here, so that is what causes. We call it as tensile failure of plates between the rivets. That is across the line of row of rivets. So that so we call it as a tensile failure. The plate can fail in tension across the row of rivets. That we call it as tensile failure of plate. Clear? And by the application of load, so if it is completely eliminated, so the tensile strength is going to be eliminated. So both the plate as well as the rivets are withstanding in shear failure and in the tensile failure. So we stated, so it is subjected to the shear failure by rivets. So if you provide enough strength, the shear failure can be completely eliminated. And there is a next possibility is tearing of plates, that is a tensile failure of plates across the road. If you provide the proper or enough tensile strength to the plates, so this failure can be eliminated. And next possible, so if both the rivets as well as the plates having the enough shear and enough tensile strength, so these first 2 possible failures are going to be eliminated. But next, coming to the next possible mode, so the rivets cannot be shearing and the plates cannot be tearing. Then even though you are applying a load here, so there is a chance of enlarging of hole. So that we call it as an crushing. So as stated, so whenever both the surfaces are in contact under the compressive forces, so whenever you can apply a tensile force here, so at this surface you can observe there is a compression force will always act. So that will cause us a crushing. So that so due to this crushing of rivets in between the plates, so which will cause us enlargement of hole. So whenever this enlargement occurs, so the hole can expand. So which will so whatever the case we are discussed earlier to provide the leak-proof joint, so that purpose is completely eliminated. So that is completely avoided. So violated by means of this crushing failure. So the liquid or fluid, whatever inside the cylinder or vessel, it's going to be leaked through these holes. There is a clearance can be provided by means of this expansion, and the failure we call it as crushing failure of plate by means of rivet. Clear? So the holes can tends to expand by means of this crushing force acting on the plate by means of rivet. So this is the third type of failure. And fourth one is shear failure of plate by means of rivet. That is, the shearing can take place even though you can provide so the enough crushing strength to the plates by plates. So you can apply a force. There is a chance of tearing at the edges. So along the diameter of rivet, so that so we can possible of shear failure of rivet plate by means of rivet, as well as there is a tearing of plate across the margin. So these are another two possible modes. So, but for the design process, in the design process, so out of these 5 different failures, so the shear failure and the tensile failure and crushing failure and shear failure of plate by means of rivet, and another one is tearing of margin. So which means a shear failure of rivet is a shearing of plate in the margin, as well as a tearing of plate in the margin. So in the design process, for design of riveted joints, so we can so out of these 3, so these 2 failures can be eliminated. So by means of providing a proper margin, so that is M. So we know that the proportionate value, that is 1.5 times of D. We can provide 1.5 times of diameter of rivet. That is a margin. So we know that what is margin is, that is from center of the rivets to the end of the plate, or edge of the towards the edge of the plate. So that is the last row of rivet center to the edge of the plate. We call it as margin. We can provide a proper margin to the riveted joint or to the plates, so that we can completely avoid these shear failure of plate by means of rivet, as well as a tearing of plate in marginal area. Clear? So that is the proper margin you can provide is 1.5 times of D. So in the design you can write the expressions, that is the strength expressions, to avoid these 3 failures only. So we can consider, so that you can go with them what is the strength values to avoid such failures in the riveted joints. So let us see. The first one is shear failure of rivet. So we know that the shear, what is a shear failure is, so whenever we can apply a load on the plates, so the rivet is the axis of rivet is perpendicular to the application of the load, so that there is a chance of shearing. So this plate is moving towards left, and this plate is moving towards right. So this is the portion of rivet which will subject to the move towards the left side, and this portion of rivet move towards the right side. So that which will cause us so at this particular juncture of rivet, which may tends to takes place of shear. That is what we call it as a shear. So this is you can observe in the lap joint. So as well as it is observed in the butt joint with the single strap. So if case there is a additional strap is there, that is a butt joint with a double strap, that you can observe here. So which means the load is acting here at the main plates, and these both 2 are additional straps. So in these cases the rivet can takes place of shear at 2 different cross sections. That we call it as double shear. So in this case in lap joint or single strap butt joint, the rivets are subjected to single shear. But coming to the double strap butt joint, you can observe this rivet can shear at 2 different cross sections. We call it as double shear. Clear? And coming to the strength values, so let us take D small d denoted with the diameter of rivets, and how is the permissible shear stress for the rivet material. So we know that the permissible strength of the shear strength of the material, that is can be denoted by tau, and n is the number of rivets in that particular joint. So along the row of rivets, how many number of rivets are there in the joint, so that can be denoted by n. So and the shear resisting area, so we know that the shear resisting area can be taken as the cross section of the rivet here. So that is a circular cross section pi by 4 d square, that is a shear resisting area for single shear. So this is for single shear, so pi by 4 d square. So if it is a double shear, the area should be twice, so 2 into pi by 4 d square. So this is a double shear, 2 into pi by 4 d square. Clear? So on the shear resisting area, so shear resisting area is this, so denoted by AS. So on the shear resisting strength, so shear resisting strength in the sense, so if you provide this much of shear strength to that rivets, so that we can avoid the shear failure in the riveted joint. So the shear strength of the rivets can be denoted by, so PS, so and it is given by, so the shear resisting area into their shear strength. So that can be given by, so AS into, so P equal to, or PS equal to shear strength equal to AS into tau. So we know that AS for single shear as well as double shear. So we can substitute in this expression here. So N into pi by 4 d square. So this is for single rivet. So it is the shear strength for single rivet. So as well as this is also double shear for single rivet, shear resisting area. But in the joint there is a n number of n number of rivets are present, so that you can need to take the value of n here. So the shear resisting area pi by 4 d square, then we multiplied by n, which will use the total shear strength of the rivets, that is the total shear resisting area of rivets, multiplied by permissible shear stress, that is a tau, so that we will get the total shear strength of rivets, so that it can avoid the shear failure of rivets in the riveted joint. Clear? So the PS is given by n into pi by 4 d square into tau for single shear. If it is a double shear, n into pi by 2 d square into, so it will have the 2, so that we will get the pi by 2 d square into tau. So that is a shear strength of rivets. So you can provide this much of strength for the rivets, so it can avoid completely the shear failure in the riveted joint. And the second type of failure we can observe is, that is a tensile failure. So that is a tensile failure of a plate, so across the rivets. So we know the distance from center of the rivets to the next consecutive center of the rivet can be denoted by which, that is small p. And here, so the holes are drilled. So the shear resisting area has to be taken at this particular cross section. So the thickness of plate can be denoted by small t. Clear? But holes are drilled. So that so this is the portion we need to subtract. So holes are drilled, so that this is the portion we need to subtract. So which means this is the portion, that is half the diameter, this is the portion of half the diameter. Clear? So which means, so if you need to write the tearing area or the tensile resisting area, so it can be written only this portion. So this can be written as, so pitch minus, so d by 2 plus d by 2 will get d. So this is the length of this particular area. So pitch minus, so total one diameter, one hole diameter. So P minus D, that is this particular length of plate between the holes of rivets into their thickness. So this gives the rectangular area of plate that can resist tensile, so which called as tensile resisting area, A equal to P minus D into T. Clear? That is the tensile resisting area, and the tensile strength can be written as, so tensile area into their permissible tensile strength of plates. So A, so here AT can denote with the tensile resisting area, AT into sigma T. So that I can use P minus D into T into sigma T. So that is tensile strength of rivets, that is a tensile failure. If you provide this much of tensile strength, so you can avoid the failure of rivets in tension. And the third failure is a crushing failure. So crushing failure of plate by means of rivet. So here again, so we know that the diameter is a D and a T can be denoted by thickness. So we stated earlier, and sigma C is the permissible crushing strength of the material, and in the earlier case sigma T is the tensile strength of material, plate material, and here sigma C is the permissible crushing stress of the material. So and N is the number of rivets. So here the crushing area can be taken as D into T. So why? Because if you take the crushing area, so this is the region so where both the rivets as well as the plates can be in plate as well as the rivet are in contact. So this is the surface area you can need to take. So this is the contactile area between the rivet as well as the bearing area between the rivet as well as the plate. So here the height of the rivet can be taken equal to the thickness of plate, and this width of the rivet is equal to the diameter. So the crushing resisting area can be taken as D into T per pitch length. And here again we are having the n number of rivets in a joint, so the total crushing area can be taken as n into D into T. So that is NDT. So here the crushing strength, so PC can be written as, so the crushing strength can be written as PC equal to, so crushing area AC into, and the crushing stress sigma C. So AC we are already written here, that is n into dt, and sigma C is the permissible crushing strength, that is given by NDT into sigma C. So this is the crushing strength that we need to provide for the plate, so that we can avoid the crushing failure of plates by means of rivets. Clear? So these are the three different strengths we need to calculate for the riveted joint. The one is the shear strength, another one is tearing strength, and third one is crushing strength. Along with that, you can also provide the proper marginal area, that is M equal to 1.5D, so that you can avoid shearing of plate as well as the tearing of plate in marginal area. So apart of that, you can need to find out the three strengths: the shear strength, tearing strength, that are tensile strength, and crushing strength. So by means of these expressions, so that you can avoid the failure of the riveted joint in these particular cases. And coming to the efficiency of the joint, so efficiency of the joint can be find out by means of the ratio of least of that is the strength of riveted plate to the strength of unriveted plate, that is the tensile strength of unriveted plate. It is clearly defined as a ratio of strength of or least strength of riveted plate to the tensile strength of unriveted plate. So least strength, so we calculated the three strengths earlier. So one is the shear strength, tensile strength, and crushing strength. So after finding out all the three strengths, we need to take the least value out of which. So that is the efficiency can be taken by, so least of so shear, tensile, and crushing. So out of which one is the least value of strength that we need to consider for the calculating efficiency, least of tensile, shear, and crushing. To the tensile strength of plates. So while calculating the tensile strength, so we are taken the cross-sectional area by subtracting the diameter of holes in the riveted plate. But coming to the unriveted plate, there is no holes are driven, so that we can take the tensile resisting area is intact. So without drilling the holes, that is the height of the plate is equal between the pitch is equal to the pitch, and thickness of the plate is equal to the T. So that the tensile strength of plate, so for the unriveted plate, is given by P into thickness, that is the pitch into thickness of plate, and it can be multiplied by the tensile strength of plate and use the strength of unriveted plate. So that is PT into sigma T. So that you can substitute here, we will get the efficiency of the joint. Clear? So this is how the efficiency of the joint is going to find out for the riveted joint by calculating all the strengths so to avoid the failures. Clear? So in the next class we can see so what are the different joints are used in the boilers and how the design are going to be performed. So in the very next class, along with the